Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. We have another great show lined up for you tonight. This is our, I think, 998th show since October of 2096. And tonight's guest is Deanna Franks with HempWorks. Welcome, Deanna.
Thank you.
We'll be talking about your CBD company and your products and CBD and medicine. Standing by over in the wings, Mr. John Cornett is ready to play some music.
Right.
Welcome back, John. Glad to see you're feeling better.
Me too.
We have our Hemp News segment that'll be coming right up, and we'll be taking your phone calls and have some videos, including the release of our long-awaited movie that's coming up on August 10th, The Green Goddess, a feature-length comedy adventure film. We've got some clips from that, other clips. We'll be right back after our infamous Dancing Cannabis Leaves.
I feel the force.
All right. Welcome back. Our first story tonight is from Washington, D.C. Federal officials have approved plans for the University of Mississippi to grow 2,000 kilograms, or 4,400 pounds of cannabis, to provide investigators for clinical trial research, according to the Associated Press. Since 1968, the University of Mississippi Farm in Oxford, which is governed by the United States National Institute on Drug Abuse, has held the only federal license to legally cultivate cannabis for FDA-approved research in the United States. Marijuana crops will include plants of varying THC and CBD potency, according to the National Institute on Drug Abuse, including strains high in cannabidiol. According to the program's current marijuana menu, no available samples contain more than 7% THC, and all samples contain less than 1% CBD. Investigators wishing to conduct FDA-approved clinical trials on cannabis have long complained that federally provided samples are of inferior quality. A research analysis published earlier this year reported that the strains currently available from NIDA share genetics typically associated with industrial hemp, not commercially available cannabis. Personally, my friend Elvie Masika has shared some of her cannabis with me, and I've smelled what comes in these tins they give her and another patient still, Irv Rosenfeld, 300 joints a year. And most of that has been harvested 10 years ago and smells like bad Mexican. But the Mississippi crop will be the largest ever grown at the University of Mississippi in several years. In August 2016, Drug Enforcement Administration officials adopted a new policy, quote, to increase the number of entities registered under the Controlled Substances Act to grow marijuana to supply legitimate researchers in the United States, end quote. To date, however, the agency has neither affirmed or denied any of the 26 applicants that have sought the DEA's permission for a federal cultivation license. Today, a federal court ordered the Drug Enforcement Administration to respond to a lawsuit charging the agency with failing to move forward with the 2016 policy to expand the total number of federally licensed marijuana cultivators. In August 2016, 2 years ago, three years ago, the Drug Enforcement Administration officials adopted a policy to increase the number of entities registered under the CSA, but to date, none have been granted. So we're still waiting for them. Scientists familiar with the product have consistently said it's of inferior quality and fails to accurately reflect the types of marijuana varieties commercially available in legal states. So hopefully researchers will be able to get some decent cannabis to conduct research instead of swag. In Washington, D.C., following a recent trend in Congress to address the collateral consequences associated with marijuana-related conviction, Senator Kamala Harris and Representative Ocasio-Cortez have introduced the Fair Chance at Housing Act. If passed by Congress, the bill would make it easier for people with criminal records to receive federal housing assistance by prohibiting the use of suspicionless drug and alcohol testing, banning discriminatory one-strike and no-fault policies, and more. Senator Harris said, quote, "As our country continues working toward much-needed reform of our criminal justice system, I'm proud to work with Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez to ensure formerly incarcerated individuals and their families have access to safe and affordable housing as they transition back into the community. By requiring a higher standard of evidence and a more holistic review process, we're taking a significant step toward giving Americans a fair chance to succeed," end quote, Senator Harris said. Currently, marijuana status as a Schedule I controlled substance can prevent honest and hardworking individuals from securing housing assistance and other basic services. As a result, property management companies are employing discriminatory policies that deny responsible marijuana consumers access to subsidized housing and other assistance. Representative Ocasio-Cortez said, quote, "I'm proud to join Senator Harris in introducing the Fair Chance at Housing Act. This legislation is one of many steps that need to be taken to repair our broken criminal justice system. The denial of basic necessities to formerly incarcerated people does not make our community safer. Denying housing to those who have been formerly incarcerated increases recidivism. Today, we're taking a step to make our community safer," end quote, Representative Ocasio-Cortez said. While this effort falls short of ending marijuana prohibition at the federal level, it does address the very policies that contribute to a lifetime of social and economic challenges for responsible marijuana consumers. It's time to end the broken and discriminatory policies of marijuana prohibition. Ensuring a fair chance at housing assistance is a step in the right direction. And just last week, Representative Jerry Nadler, the chair of the House Judiciary Committee, introduced the MORE Act to completely legalize marijuana, take it off the schedule, and to use a 5% tax to help states transition and expunge all marijuana convictions from people's records. Amen to that. I recommend that you contact your legislators in Washington, D.C., especially in the House of Representatives, and urge them to support Representative Jared Nadler's MORE Act. That's the MORE Act. In another story, qualified patients are anticipated to finally begin accessing medicinal cannabis products next week in the state of Louisiana, according to a statement issued by regulators at Louisiana's Department of Agriculture and Forestry, or LDAF. Lawmakers initially approved the establishment of the state's medical cannabis access program in 2015, but its rollout has faced numerous delays. Under the law, licensed cannabis products may only be grown and manufactured by operations affiliated with two of the state's universities, LSU and Southern University. 9 pharmacies throughout the state are designated to provide cannabis products to patients. The first product to be available to patients are cannabis-infused tinctures. Those products are expected to be available in select pharmacies next Tuesday. According to the state government there, they said, quote, "We're very excited to announce today that LSU's final medical marijuana product has passed all testing for immediate release to the medical marijuana pharmacies," end quote, LDAF Commissioner Mike Strain said. He went on and continued, quote, "We wish to thank all persons involved who tirelessly from inception through production and testing to make this a reality," end quote. Although the law's initial limited cannabis preparations to non-herbal formulations only, legislation enacted this year in Louisiana also now permits patients to obtain marijuana in a form to be administered by metered-dosed inhaler. Patients may be eligible for medical cannabis products in Louisiana if they are diagnosed with cancer, epilepsy, multiple sclerosis, post-traumatic stress, or other qualifying ailments. Next story tonight is from Tempe, Arizona. The use of marijuana during adolescence is not associated with structural brain differences in adulthood, according to data published in the journal Drug and Alcohol Dependence. Investigators from Arizona State University and the University of Pittsburgh assessed the impact of adolescent cannabis exposure on brain morphology in adulthood. Researchers tracked differing adolescent use patterns from no cannabis use to heavy use, defined as on average 782 days of use in a row, in a cohort of 1,000 teenage boys. A subset of participants subsequently underwent structural brain imaging in adulthood between the ages of 30 and 36. The scientists examined 14 brain regions, including the amygdala and the hippocampus. The authors reported, quote, "We found that adolescent cannabis use was not associated with adult brain structure in a sample of boys followed prospectively to adulthood," end quote. They added, quote, "Boys were classified into one of 4 prototypical adolescent cannabis trajectory subgroups based on prospective assessments of cannabis use frequency from age 13 to 19. Infrequent use or no use, desisting use, escalating use, or chronic relatively frequent use. We found no differences in the adult brain structures for boys in any of the different adolescent cannabis trajectory subgroups. Even boys with the highest level of cannabis exposures in adolescence showed subcortical brain volumes and cortical brain volumes and thickness in adulthood that were similar to boys with almost no exposure to cannabis throughout adolescence," end quote. The authors concluded, quote, "The patterns of cannabis use typically seen in adolescence does not appear to have lasting effect on brain structure," end quote. These findings are consistent with those of several prior brain imaging studies. A recent meta-analysis published in the Journal of the Medical Association Psychiatry reported that youth cannabis exposure does not appear to be associated with any sustained cognitive deficits in adulthood. These data replicate previous work to reveal that even some of the most frequent users of cannabis do not show changes later in brain structure. The measures are very sensitive, and researchers looked throughout the brain very thoroughly, and they couldn't find any difference. So the full text of this study, associations between adolescent cannabis use frequency and adult brain structure, appears in the Journal of Drug and Alcohol Dependence. Our next story is from Paris, France. The use of cannabis among patients co-infected with HIV and hepatitis C virus is associated with a reduced mortality risk, according to data published in the journal AIDS and Behavior. A team of French and Brazilian investigators evaluated the association between psychoactive substance use and both HCV and non-HCV mortality in HIV-HCV co-infected patients over a 5-year period. After adjusting for potential co-founder factors, they reported, quote, "Regular daily cannabis use, elevated coffee intake, and not currently smoking tobacco were independently associated with reduced HCV mortality, and potential benefits of cannabis-based therapy should be investigated," end quote. Subsequent studies report an association between a history of cannabis use and a reduced in-hospital mortality in patients suffering from acute pancreatitis, heart attacks, and traumatic brain injuries, among other conditions. This study, HCV-related mortality among HIV-HCV co-infected patients, the importance of behaviors in the HCV cure era, appears in this month's edition of AIDS and Behavior. And that's the end of our hemp news segment tonight. Mr. John Cornett is standing by and going to play a song. We'll be right back after he does. Welcome, John.
Hey, Paul, there's only one song that I can think of right now to follow up that bit of news with. You know, I grew up down in the South where there was such, I mean, if you were like walking around with dynamite if you decided to utilize cannabis back in the late 60s and early 70s in the deep, deep, deep South. Anyway, this is a song I wrote, kind of an ode to those days. It's called Cannabis. There's a train coming, and it's steady and on the track. People changing, and for some there's no turning back. Cannabis is more than just cannabis. It's more than just a weed. People changing. This prohibition has to stop. Children dying while we legislate the crop. Cannabis is more than just cannabis. It's more than just all weed. Cannabis is more than just a weed. Thank you. Thank you.
Another original Cannabis song for you, John. Thanks for doing that. Hey, Deanna. I'd like to welcome Deanna Franks onto the show. Welcome. How are you tonight?
I'm good, thank you.
Good, good. So you reached out to me, it seems like maybe 6 or 8 weeks ago, and talking about your CBD company.
Yes.
So you have a CBD company. Let me look at your card if I may. Okay, thanks. It's HempWorks.
HempWorks, yes.
HempWorks.
Because hemp works.
Yeah, but the KS is not with a KS.
Because X's are cool.
It's with an X.
Yes.
Okay. And so tell us about your company and how you got into this.
How I got into it. Well, that's interesting because I originally was looking at CBD oil for my mother because she has dementia. Actually, she was officially diagnosed just about 2 weeks ago, officially, but we knew.
Well, my condolences. That's a serious disease.
Thank you. And oddly enough, she refuses to even try it. So, there's that. But so I didn't realize that I was going to be the one to benefit. And just like I've been taking CBD oil now for 3.5 months, and 3.5 months ago I could not walk on my right foot. I couldn't put any pressure on it whatsoever. And I went through my primary care physician, who sent me to a nerve specialist. I passed all those tests, and he sent me to a neurologist, and I passed those tests. He sent me to a podiatrist, and she told me I have flat feet and I have arthritis, which I already knew that. I mean, that's nothing.
Thanks a lot, right?
Yeah, right. So the conversation I had with my neurologist, though, when I told him that I had just started taking CBD oil, he was, which I really commend him because he didn't make any money by saying this. But he said, whatever you do not stop taking that CBD oil. That's going to be your biggest relief that you're going to get is don't ever stop taking that.
And when was this?
This was, I started at 3.5 months ago, so it was probably about 3 months ago.
I see.
So I was like 2 weeks into taking the CBD oil. And oddly enough, this is what's really weird too, because I didn't get relief from my foot until probably a good 3 or 4 weeks into taking the CBD. But what's amazing about this product is it puts your body in balance. Like everything it allows your body to heal itself because it puts everything back in balance. Because when you have a deficiency, obviously you're out of balance. So I found like 2 weeks into taking this, I was sleeping all night without waking up. Which is something I hadn't done since before my first child was born, and my baby just turned 25. So it's been a few years, And so the benefits that you don't even realize are going to be a benefit when you start taking this stuff. So that's kind of my story, and I just have to share it. I have to share it with everybody because it's done wonders for me. And I don't know if you noticed, but I'm not limping on my foot anymore at all.
It's hard for the audience at home to notice that right this second, but I think in seeing you walk in the studio here, I didn't notice you limping.
Right,
so
you would have
that's
noticed
a good
it
thing.
3.5 months ago. Believe me, I couldn't
see.
put any pressure on my foot.
So we have this nifty product here. And this is the HempWorks product, and you're an independent affiliate with HempWorks, is that right?
Yes.
So how is it that you came to contact HempWorks?
Well, I met up.
Was that your first try it at a
Yes,
CBD
actually,
concoction? So you
because-
met someone involved with HempWorks?
And I have to be honest with you, I have
Please do.
never stepped into a dispensary before
Mm-hmm,
because I don't know, like there's so much, because my sons, I drop them off at dispensaries and they walk in there and they come out less than 5 minutes later with a plethora of all these different things, you know, and I'm just like, I would be lost. It's like going into Home Depot and just not knowing where to get anything, you know? And so, I'm just too afraid to just like go through the walk in and because I don't know really what to ask for, what I want, you know, and because that's going to be their first question is.
So how was it that you came to try CBD for your pain? I
met a lady on Facebook who sells HempWorks, and I started chatting with her. We built a relationship, and I was telling her about my mother, and so that's kind of how that happened. And kind of I'm so excited about the product. I just have to share it with everybody.
It says that this is American grown on American farms. Kentucky farmers have been
Yes.
pioneers in hemp cultivation and production and farming practices. And,
Yes, and it's an organic, non-GMO. All of our hemp is grown in Kentucky.
Okay.
And so
I
we
bet
know
I know the
exactly-
company that provides it.
Really?
Yeah.
Because
I think it's Atola, Atalo.
Maybe
They're
I
one of the
don't
largest white label meaning they'll put any label on their products and put them out there.
Oh,
I
okay.
think, and they're one of the largest and best financed of the Kentucky hemp growers out there. So I bet
I
it's an
don't know
Atola
that.
product.
I really don't know, but I do know that it's like all of our hemp is we've got lot numbers on all our bottles, so it can be traced down to that batch when it was made, the very date and time it was made, and it's extracted using CO2.
Okay, well, you know, we are taking viewers' phone calls, so if you have a question for Deanna or myself, you can call us that number there on your screen. It's 503-288-4442. That's 503-288-4442. We have a studio audience member, and you're welcome to come down and join us in our studio audience on Friday nights as well at Open Signal at 2766 Northeast Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. But we also have a film clip now. I am an associate producer of a comedy adventure film that's been in production for almost 18 years. So we have a couple of trailers we're going to be running here, and the movie is going to be released on a pay-per-view basis next Saturday, August 10th. So here is a video clip from The Green Goddess.
The following trailer contains real marijuana.
Yes! Legend has it that deep within the THC crystal of the marijuana plant, there lives a goddess. A goddess so incredible that meeting her will transform your life forever.
She's magnificent, glorious, beautiful, delicious.
I want to meet her.
You start with a strain like this, nurture her, worship her. When your mind is open, she will come.
Growing his crop for the DJ was good brother Elaine. Solid cash, real good karma, lives his life as a ganja farmer. He was minding his business, when with the quickness, up jumped the popo, he ain't go-go. He lost his crop, he done. He lost his job, he done.
To get their buddy out of jail, 3 friends will travel halfway across the world, plant 25,000 marijuana plants, and harvest more organic ganja than you and all of your friends could smoke in 3 lifetimes. Whoa, that's a lot of pot. They have only one chance to get it right and to meet one goddess. Would you like to meet the Green Goddess?
So, this movie is going to be available on the internet next week. We'll have another little clip in a bit here. So, you're selling CBD products now, and you're using them. How would you recommend patients choose the right CBD product for their ailment?
Well, there are some steps that, I mean, because there's a lot of really good product that's out there, and then there's a lot of really not so good product. And it's like the green rush. Everyone's talking about CBD, everyone's selling it. And you can even buy it in at Rite Aid or the gas stations.
Yeah, I just saw a picture of it at a Circle K gas station, and in the door it said CBD infused products are available at this Circle K gas station. And I was in Texas in May and saw CBD stores and billboards for CBD flowers. You go in and they sell what looks like good marijuana flowers, but it really is low THC CBD flowers, and it looks and smells like high potency cannabis.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and so the farmers are growing that. I was down at this event, the Southern Oregon Hemp Stock, just the beginning of last month, and there were hemp fields on both sides of the highway as far as you could see.
Wow, here in Oregon.
Here in
great.
Oregon. In Jackson County, there was an article in the Medford Mail Tribune just less than 2 weeks ago that said that there's more hemp growing in Jackson County than grapes and pears combined. And Jackson County is a huge grape and a huge pear producer.
Well, hallelujah.
So, yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
So there's about
I had no
500
idea.
farms just in Jackson County alone, growing about 55,000 acres.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And the thing is, they're growing it right beside recreational and medical cannabis gardens. So they're not growing from seed. They're not producing pollen in the Rogue River Valley. They're growing clones, and they're growing clones that are female, so they don't produce pollen that would seed all the commercial marijuana growers throughout the valley. So they're concentrating on this niche of growing CBD biomass and CBD flower for this legal national market. And a lot of them are making a lot of money. I got to moderate 2 panels at the Southern Oregon Hemp Stock with a number of farmers who are in the process of doing this and talking about sustainable practices. But it's amazing. It's great after all the years of doing this show, 23 years now, to see this finally beginning.
And the great thing with hemp is it's so versatile. Like they can do so, and they can all the plastic that's in the ocean and stuff. I mean, they can replace plastic with hemp. They can make a plastic product using hemp.
Hemp
and
seed
it's
oil,
biodegradable and all that stuff. But choosing CBD, you want to make sure that you're, because so many companies are focused on quantity rather than quality because it's the green rush and it's everywhere. So you want to make sure that you've got good quality oil, and a lot of the you have to have a carrier oil to get the CBD in your body where it needs to go. So our oil is hemp seed oil, which is a superfood in itself, and then we have CBD oil, and then the only other ingredient that we have in our oil is natural flavoring. Like we have peppermint, we have cinnamon, and then we have just natural flavor, like no flavoring. But a lot of the CBD oil that you find out there has.
There's a picture of these tinctures here. Apparently, go right ahead though.
Yeah. So a lot of the CBD that you'll find has other oils, which they'll have coconut oil, they have fish oil, which are not bad oils. They're very good for you.
There's your information for our viewers. They can see this little blurb up there.
Me and my husband.
Okay.
So
and here's the package once it's opened up here. So what we have here, there's a couple of different things. What are these? We've got the little tincture bottles.
The little tincture, those are 2 little vials of isolate oil. Now that oil has 0 THC in it.
Okay.
So our full spectrum oil will have your CBD, your CBN.
How much
CBG.
CBD does it have, or how do you know how they measure that?
How many milligrams of CBD it has in it? Oh gosh, I should know that, and because like for each drop, I'm not quite sure.
Drops can vary in size, so it's hard to have a
well, and another
ratio.
thing.
Well, I'll look through the packaging though, and we'll see
Okay,
what we can find here in just a moment.
Well, and some people like they'll take a lot, thinking, oh, I'm going to take a lot and it's going to be better for me. But if you've never taken it, you'll shock your endocannabinoid system, and it's not bad for you, but you're just wasting your money. It's your if you take too much at once, so you want to start out slow. But that is, like I said, our sample packs it's isolate oil. So it only has CBD in it, and it's got 0 THC in it. And then the 3 sachets are actually our creams. Like we have a relief cream, which is like a pain relief cream, and then we have the Renew cream, which is a face cream, and then we have Revive, which is a collagen.
I see. So yeah, there are 3 different topical products. All right.
Yes.
On this show, we've often showed a number of topical products that were often antiques. You probably didn't know that Johnson & Johnson had about 15 different cannabis-based products.
I had no idea.
Yeah, Johnson & Johnson did. So the Eli Lilly and Park Davis, 2 existent pharmaceutical companies, they each had about 25 different cannabis medicines. If you were watching our show, you would know that. But hey, now you find out. That's okay.
Yes. No, I'm going to start watching you every Friday. This is really interesting. I mean, I've seen a couple of the archives, but this whole live thing is very interesting. I like it.
Yeah, last week we had the 3 doctors on, Dr. Rachel, Janice, and David Knox, and they've got a class happening tomorrow on teaching about an introduction to the endocannabinoid system. So it's
a lot of people don't even know
endocannabinology.
anything about it.
Yeah, well, it was just discovered in the early 1990s. So if you weren't staying up to date on it, there's a couple more images that you sent us regarding that.
Just kind of explaining the endocannabinoid system and the different receptors, and the endocannabinoid system is basically your peripheral and your central nervous system, and so it's good stuff. It really is good stuff.
Okay, well, we've got another video that we'll roll here for just a moment. We'll be right back after this video.
This one here, this is the Royal Kush. This plant has done very, very well. I saw this bud mold starting, gosh, I stopped by here a couple of weeks ago when I was back in town, and I saw that starting, and I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to leave that go and see how long it takes to progress. It stayed right there in the bud, and it hasn't progressed very far. Okay, then we can take a good close look at this bud. See, this thing's going to be a heavy one. I'm really pleased with this plant here. Now next to it, there's 3 of these ghost cushes, and see, they're already, these cushes are actually, they're a little bit past, but they're looking pretty good. Here's all these big cushes here, this ghost kush. I think it's going to do quite well. And these buds, they're really quite sticky. You can see my fingers. I just barely touch them like that, and my fingers are really quite sticky. Okay, so these are these ghost cushes. Now this one, my gosh, this plant is, well, these are the 2 volunteers. Now these babies, well, they're just, I've got that ladder over here. I think I'm going to stand up on the ladder. You can get a little better view of these plants when I'm on the ladder. But you can see they're doing okay. The buds are pretty good size. We're gonna climb up on the ladder here and take a closer look, because all these buds are up here so high, I can't get a good shot of them otherwise. Here they are. They look like, well, they're not quite ready. I might go ahead and take them out today anyway, just because of the rain. But these I might let stay. And the volunteers, they may look good, they may be big. The buds, well, they're starting to fill out, but they're not quite dense enough. You know, I don't know. I'm of a mixed mind on these volunteers. But like I say, they've done all right. Well, you can kind of see down there's the garden. So let's see. I guess the next video. Well, let me do this. Let's just go look underneath here so you get a complete view of the garden. Here's some of these stems. They're pretty good size. This one you can see I had to do a little repair work on. It's with duct tape. Duct tape's really great stuff. It expands and contracts with the plant. So that's a pretty good deal because, well, it lets the plant grow. As long as you don't get any moisture underneath there, a lot of it, to cause fungus, everything's cool. Okay, so that'll give you kind of an idea of what I've got going today. And next video, you're going to see, well, a little hacking. So maybe I'll cut. It's just me here, so I'm going to maybe set this on the tripod, and we'll go from there. Jorge Cervantes, Harvest Day. We are in October 13th today. We'll see you next video.
Jorge Cervantes with a little video showing about harvest time, what our growers are looking forward to. We're coming up to the start of the flower season, so we've got a couple months to go before they get to this stage. 2.5, actually. So again, if you have any questions regarding marijuana, medical marijuana, or industrial hemp for either myself or Deanna Franks and her CBD company, HempWorks, give us a call at 503-288-4442. That's 503-288-4442. And we have a gentleman at the microphone. Go right ahead, sir.
A second-time viewer. You know, something my family has been really concerned about with my cannabis use is how it affects my brain, and I appreciate the news that you talked about. What do we know so far about like how cannabis affects the brain? And I know different people react differently. Like some people who have more tendencies that could lean towards schizophrenic nature might be more at risk. But is that a result of the cannabis, or is that purely a result of that person's brain? And I guess my real question is, you know, what can I do to make sure I'm using cannabis safely and healthily?
About 1 out of 100 people have a predisposition to schizophrenia. Some of them will develop it, some of them won't. Among the people who don't, sometimes cannabis use and heavy cannabis use can affect it. Out of those people with a predisposition, it's about 1 out of 10. So it's about 1 out of 1,000 people that will have a negative psychotic schizophrenic event from the use of cannabis. They should just try a couple puffs, and if you don't feel good, don't do it. Now, most schizophrenic patients find that it helps their schizophrenia, and so somehow the cannabinoids interact with the brain in a way that affects this disease. The actual mechanism of that still hasn't been discovered yet. Do you have another question or comment, Micah?
Is there any difference between smoking, vaping, and eating cannabis?
Well, smoking and vaping are pretty much the same thing, inhalation. But eating cannabis is different. It goes through your digestive tract and your liver, and so there is, but not in regard to its effect on schizophrenia, to my knowledge. And so, you know, there's this class I'll be going to tomorrow that the doctors Knox are teaching about the endocannabinoid system, but maybe I'll have more to say next week. We have another person at the mic here. Go right ahead.
First-time participant in your show, and I
welcome.
Must don my hat and consider myself ignorant in this regard to most of the things you speak about, but it's my understanding that didn't Trump's omnibus bill in December federalize 5% THC content, effectively removing it from Schedule 1 and declaring it medical use as viable, and therefore opening the federal commerce system and undoing everything?
Only so it's not 5% or less.
It's not legalized anymore. It's recognized that it's legal.
Yeah, it's
that
legal,
correct?
but it has to be less than 1/3 of 1% THC. So it's not 5% THC that was made legal. And I think that is an arbitrary number to say 1/3 of 1%. What that means is we really can't produce very much seed. And seed is the primary product that farmers can make the most money off of in the long run. So we need to legalize cannabis without regard to its THC content for production of seeds for fuel and food and oil and fiber for
That's the
building
point
materials.
of my question, sir, is that you keep framing your statement from the standpoint of it's not legal. No, it was made
Well,
legal.
no.
as
What I'm
hemp
saying is
by the
it's
omnibus
legal
bill.
for less than 1/3 of 1%, but it's not legal for anything more than 1/3 of 1%. So, for instance, the farms I was talking about in southern.
Percentages are debatable. The fact
What?
it's legal is not.
Well, the thing is, if you have more than 0.3%, you can be arrested and put in jail if you have cannabis with more than that. In fact, that happened to a trucker in Idaho. They said he had 0.4%, just slightly more than 1/3 of 1%, and they arrested him, made him bail out of jail. They're keeping the truck. He's being charged under Idaho law. The same thing happened in Oklahoma
as well.
with a shipment of hemp from Kentucky that was going to Colorado.
Yeah.
They were pulled over with 18,000 pounds of cannabis, the biggest bust ever in Oklahoma history. Those drivers were held for 4 months before they were able to bail out of jail. And so it seems like it's legal, but you got to educate the police about that. And this arbitrary limit of less than 0.3 of 1% THC is confusing. In fact, in Texas, where they're dealing with legalizing hemp as well, just like the rest of the nation, they say the officers can't tell the difference between cannabis with more than 1/3 of 1% THC and regular recreational marijuana. So it's causing a lot of confusion. Now, you want to make a disclaimer about medical use.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that we can't make any medical claims
Yeah.
on our CBD products. So we can't say it cures anything because it's nothing but a supplement. So I just wanted to put that out there. So
Yes, I understand. So you gave us a couple other videos. Well, a video here of a chiropractor in Virginia. Talking about
yes.
CBD.
And he talks about actually generalized. He talks about CBD, like a little bit of the history of CBD, and he just about the benefits of CBD. But he kind of goes into a little bit of the history, which I think is very interesting too. So.
Okay, well, let's see if we can run that video now. We'll be right back after this.
Tonight's Facebook Live is going to be about why is CBD oil sweeping across this country and literally making an incredible movement worldwide? Because we know it is going like spreading across this country like wildfire, as well as around the world. And so that always brings up the question, like, why? And patients want to know, like, why? Why is this happening? Is it because, is it like something new they just found out? Is it because, is it something brand new? Is it that some marketing guru got behind it and that's why it's now going across the country? Well, that's not any of it. The truth is that CBD oil and cannabis products have been around since like the beginning of recorded time. Archaeological digs have found hemp and cannabis in like 6,000 years ago. So it's been in use forever. The truth is, in the Virginia colonies, and I'm in Virginia, so I know a little something about it. In the Virginia colonies, they made it illegal not to grow hemp. Okay, that's how important hemp was to to the agriculture and literally to the economy. Is hemp was that important. Now, it was being used in natural medicine, in pharmacies. It was in the pharmacopoeia. And then what happened is it got basically it got vilified. In 1937, the United States government passed and they spelled it really funny, the Marijuana Act, and that made all hemp cannabis products basically illegal, and so it went away. And it was demonized from then forward. And that's why most of us are just starting to hear about it now. Because in the 50s and the 60s, they started doing more research on it. And then by the 80s, 90s, they really got into some really great research, started finding some amazing benefits of CBD oil. And that's when it really started to break. And so, no, CBD oil is not new. It didn't...
All right. So that's Dr. Jim Holland in Virginia, a chiropractor, talking a little bit about history. He didn't really get into the effects of CBD so much there. He was kind of rehashing the history just a little bit there. But anything you'd like to add to what he was saying? Or
you know, he talked about the history itself, and because our livestock, all these, you know, six decades ago, our livestock was consuming the CBD, the hemp, and so we were consuming the milk from the cattle and consuming the cattle, and so therefore we had it in our bodies all the time. So fast forward 6 decades later, and we have a severe deficiency in our endocannabinoid system, and so that's why it's so important. And you don't have to have an ailment or a ache or a pain to benefit from this product. So
yeah, I really believe we have co-evolved with cannabis for about 25,000 years. In fact, I go internationally and giving talks about this in Europe and Latin America and Japan, and I was down in Colombia. I've been down Colombia on an annual basis since 2016 for this event called Expo MediWeed. And while I was there, someone asked me a couple questions and recorded a little video. So we have a little video that's a little bit less than 1 minute, and we're going to run that. We'll be right back. Well, maybe we are. It's coming soon to the camera near you.
The trailer contains real marijuana.
Yes! Legend has it that deep within the THC crystal of the marijuana plant, there lives a goddess. A goddess so incredible that meeting her will transform your life forever.
She's magnificent, glorious, beautiful, delicious.
I want to meet her.
You start with a strain like this, nurture her, worship her. When your mind is open, she will come.
Growing his crop for the DJ was good brother Elaine.
All right, so that is a little excerpt from The Green Goddess, a movie that's coming out next week on August 10th. We do take viewers' phone calls. We don't get nearly as many now that people don't subscribe to cable anymore, but we have a caller standing by. Welcome to the show, caller.
Hi, how are you?
Very well, how are you?
I'm good. My name's Sherry, and I will first say I successfully eliminated opioid use by using a 2-to-1 CBD dominant cultivar. It worked for me, so I know it works.
Congratulations.
But that's not my question. I just wanted to state that because I'm a believer and it does work. But my question is, you referenced Southern Oregon and all the hemp farms. And pollinators being what pollinators are, doing what they do, they don't recognize borders.
No.
With people growing recreationally and for medical purposes, how in the world are they planning to control nature? Because as I understand it, the pollinators are going to just pollinate the plants and they're going to end up being just hybrids. Or am I wrong?
No. If there is a male plant out there, it's going to pollinate wherever that pollen travels. You know, they say that Sinsemilla crops in Spain are pollinated by male flowers in Morocco across the Mediterranean. So they aren't going to stop it really too well. But what they're doing in Southern Oregon is they're growing female clones. And so these are clones that have been matured and harvested, so they're growing those in the Rogue River Valley so that they don't pollinate. They just have females, and they're producing flowers and biomass.
I understand that females and clones, but the minute you introduce a male plant in that environment and you blow pollen,
yeah, no, that's
you will have
going to seed
right?
everything
Or
within
wrong?
the wind. Yeah, I agree. I don't know exactly how they're doing it.
That's just the whole with the whole conversation and everything that I'm reading, everything that I'm learning. That was the question in my mind's eye, and that's what made sense to me. So I just wanted to touch base and address it.
Well, I saw a farmer who posted a picture of a wild plant saying, danger, danger, here's a feral hemp plant in the valley. So the farmers there are watching out for that, and they are teaching the other farmers, and there are about 500 different farmers just in Jackson County alone who are trying to do that right now.
Okay, well, very good. Thank you very much. I appreciate your response.
You're very welcome. Thanks for calling.
All right, bye.
Hey, now we're going to have this video talking about the history of cannabis as recorded in 1 minute or so down in Medellin, Colombia. We'll be right back. I'm motivated because cannabis motivates me. It's actually the oldest crop. It's been cultivated by humans for over 30,000 years. All archaeologists agree it's the first crop. And it started, its indigenous area is the Himalayas around Tibet, Nepal, and India, and Afghanistan. And by 12,000 years ago, its cultivation had spread to the Mediterranean. And it's the basis of agriculture. The chickens, the cows, the horses, they were domesticated by people who grew hemp. And so hemp started agriculture, and it's the most productive crop. It makes more fiber from its stems, could more than replace all the trees that are cut down on Earth. It makes more fuel and oil from its seeds. And its biomass. You can completely replace petroleum by just growing 10% of the world's crops with hemp. And it makes more protein once you press those seeds and take out the oil. It's the best protein for people. It matches humans' needs perfectly. So it's the most productive crop on each of those. And so it's the oldest and most productive crop. So you can't do anything better than for the future of life on this planet and our necessity to bequeath all the biodiversity that we can, what's left. And hemp will help in that battle. That's it. All right, so there's down in Medellin, Colombia. I will be back at the Seattle Hemp Fest on Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock and in Seattle's Hemposium on Sunday morning. So if somebody wants to come up to Seattle, you can meet me there. I'll also be back in Mexico City for the 4th annual Expo Weed Mexico, coming up on August 30th, 29th, 30th, and September 1st. So I'll be in Mexico City at Expo Weed Mexico. You can look up Expo Weed Mexico. So Deanna, if somebody wants to reach you and find out about your work, what's the best way for them to do that?
They can hit me up on Facebook. I'm Deanna Franks on Facebook, and I have all my information there.
Mm-hmm.
They can. I should have worn my hemp. I have got a really cool shirt that says "Text Hemp" to 503-367-2617. You can do that too. So.
Mm-hmm. All right. So one more time, just for the people who want to reach you again. Oh, there's your contact information right there.
Yeah, right there. So there it says text hemp to 503-367-2617. Or I am on Facebook. Hit me up, friend me.
All right. Well, I want to thank you for coming on.
I want to thank you for having me. I've learned a lot too.
So, good.
Yeah.
And thank you, viewers, for watching again tonight. Mr. John Cornett is standing by, ready to play another song. I want to thank Deanna Franks. Thank John Cornett. Thank everybody back in the production room and behind the cameras tonight and over all these years. You know, we're coming up on our 1,000th show, not next week, but the week after. So let's see what the next 1,000 shows brings us. So thanks for watching. Tune in next week and help us restore hemp.
Now is the time. Now is the time. Now is the time. Now is the time. The time is now to tell the truth, to hear the truth, to know the truth. Oppressive lies and fantasies isn't how it has to be. Ignorance throwing stones like so many brainless clones. Sound the alarm, investigate. Sound the alarm, re-educate, re-educate.